So you sent us the complete book of Taekwon Do forms by Keith D. Yates. Fantastic resource, by the way.
It really is.
And the idea was to really unpack the world of these forms, the hung.
Exactly. Let's dive in. There's a lot to cover.
There really is. And I think maybe first we should frame Taekwon Do itself, just briefly, based on how the book sets it up.
Good idea. Yeah, the book's pretty direct. It calls it the way of kicking and punching.
Right, a Korean system. Unarmed combat.
But it emphasizes, it's not just the physical. There's mental discipline, coordination, balance.
Technique, high precision.
Definitely. And it points out those powerful kicks and the very linear, direct movements.
Which it contrasts with, say, Kung Fu, more circular style.
Yeah, the distinction's made early on.
Okay, so context. History. The book digs into this quite a bit, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah. It tackles that idea some people have, that it's just Korean karate.
And karate just means empty hand, sort of generically.
Right. But the book argues Taekwondo Do has its own very distinct, very old history.
How old are we talking?
Well, it points to evidence way back, Goguryeo dynasty, like 37 BC.
Wow. Okay, so pre-Christian Korea, that's significant.
It is. And then it tracks the development through the Silla Kingdom.
Or it's called Taekwon.
Taekwon, yeah.
Yeah.
And associated with the Hwa-Rang Do, those elite warriors.
Right.
Then the Goryeo dynasty, it mentions a bit of a decline later. Yi dynasty, more focused on scholarly stuff maybe. And then a huge turning point, the Japanese occupation, 1910.
Where Korean martial arts were banned.
Exactly, banned. Which paradoxically led to some mixing with Chinese and Japanese styles because people had to train elsewhere.
Interesting. So after World War II, a resurgence.
Big time. A push to reclaim Korean identity, martial arts included. And that's when, in 1955, the name Taekwondo was adopted.
Proposed by General Choi Hong-hai, the book says.
That's the one,
Yeah.
trying to unify the different styles that had emerged.
Which led to the Korean Taekwondo Association in 65.
Yep, bringing together the 5 big schools, the major dojangs.
Cheongdo-kwan, Mudo-kwan, Change Mu-kwan.
Do-kwan, Chi-do-kwan. Yeah, those 5.
And a dojang is basically the training hall, the school.
Correct. So you see this formal structure solidifying.
Okay, so that's the Korean side. What about its arrival in America? The book touches on that too.
It does. Highlights Johun Ri. Introduced it in Texas, 56 actually, not 52.
Ah, 56, okay. And he called it karate at first?
Yeah, just because people knew that term. More recognizable.
Makes sense. Then came the big international organization.
Right. General Choi, again, founding the ITF, International Taekwondo Federation, in 66.
And then the WTF, World Taekwondo Federation, in 73.
Yeah, the 2 major international bodies, though with different approaches, especially later in competition.
The book also mentions other significant American groups, right? Like the ATA.
American Taekwondo Association, yeah. Johun Ri Institute.
And the Southwest Taekwondo Association, founded by the author himself.
Huh. Yeah, that's a nice little detail in the acknowledgments.
But this brings up a point. The book seems keen on the competition rules, especially WTF versus others.
The WTF rules, the Olympic style, no punches to the head, no kicks below the belt.
And the author, Yates, seems to take issue with that from a traditional standpoint.
He definitely presents that perspective.
Yeah.
Argues it limits the practical self-defense side of things.
Because in a real fight, well, those are targets.
Exactly. His point is about reality versus sport.
Though he does acknowledge the potential reason for the WTF rules.
Yeah, maybe to differentiate it, emphasize the kicking.
Right, make it distinct from karate in competition. Sounds like an ongoing debate within the art itself.
It certainly seems that way based on the book's perspective. It leans towards the traditional view on this.
Doesn't really present the other side of the argument much.
Not in depth, no. It's focused on that traditionalist self-defense application viewpoint, which, leads us back to the core topic.
Forms, the home.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because the book stresses, this is where we need to focus for this deep dive, their importance.
Historically, before modern sparring and pads and all that, forms were how you practice safely, right?
Yeah, absolutely essential. It was the practice against imaginary opponents, the foundation.
And they're still vital now, the book argues. For training reflexes, speed.
Balance, power, smooth execution. It mentions the explosive power of the original Korean forms.
And it's not casual practice. You need dedication.
Oh, yeah. Each rank, new forms, more complex.
Send that recommendation. 300 repetitions before you test for promotion.
Minimum. Yeah, it shows the level of commitment needed to really internalize them.
So the book clarifies it's focusing on a specific set of forms.
Right, the Chang-Hon patterns, developed by General Choi.
Used by the ITF and most American stylists, it says.
Yeah, and it points to an appendix if you want to know exactly which group uses which forms. So we're looking at that specific lineage here.
Got it. Okay, so purpose and lineage clear. What about actually doing them? The performance pointers.
Key elements here. First one, you almost always end up back where you started.
Which means those step angles have to be spot on. Precision.
Total precision. It's almost like a moving meditation in that sense. Spatial awareness.
And every single move has a purpose. Offensive or defensive.
Exactly. You have to visualize the opponent, the attack, the block, the strike. Intent is crucial.
It's not just dancing. There's a mental combat simulation going on.
Precisely. Then there's flow. Continuous movement.
But with slight pauses.
Slight pauses at each stance. For balance, clarity of technique, but still maintaining rhythm.
And those pauses get subtler as you get better.
Yeah, for advanced students, it becomes almost seamless. But the control is still there. It's ingrained.
Okay. And breath control.
Vital. Conserves energy, but also generates power. Forceful exhale on the technique.
Like focusing the energy, which ties into the kiap, right?
Exactly, that forceful breath expulsion, contracting the abs.
Adds power, focus, maybe a psychological edge, even imagine.
Could be. Demonstrates commitment. And the last pointer forms trained kinesthetic perception.
That internal sense of your body, where it is, how it's moving without looking.
Yeah. Body awareness, super important for any physical skill.
Absolutely. Okay, great overview of performance. Now the fundamentals. White belt stuff. Starts with stances.
The foundation. Like the book says, building needs a solid base.
Can't do much without good stances. First is attention. Charyo.
Charyo. Yeah, ready for the go. Feet together, hands on thighs. Simple.
Then ready, Junbi.
Junbi. Beginning and end of forms. Fists tight, slightly forward. Feet shoulder width. Balanced starting point.
Okay, then the more dynamic ones. Front stance, Chongul-soki.
Chongul-soki. Good for forward balance, stable, wide base, low center of gravity.
Weight distribution is key here, isn't it? 60% forward.
About that, yeah. Front leg bent, chin vertical, back leg straight, powerful forward base.
Any weaknesses mentioned, like is the back leg vulnerable?
The book doesn't explicitly state weaknesses, but yeah, being weighted forward means you need awareness behind you. It's built for moving forward.
Got it. Then back stance, Fugal-sogi, more mobile.
Yeah, Fugal-sogi, 70% weight on the rear leg, both legs bent, hips back and low.
Favored for sparring, it says. Makes sense for quick movement.
Definitely. Allows for quicker changes, defensive moves.
And the straddle stance, Kimisogi, horse stance.
Kimisogi, the horse stance. Wide, very balanced, hips low, back straight.
Used a lot in practice and forms, but less in actual fighting.
Less mobile compared to the back stance, yeah.
Yeah.
Great for developing power and stability, though.
Okay, stance is down. Now, the kicks. What Taekwon Do is famous for.
Right, the high, powerful kicks. Legs are longer, stronger weapons.
But there's a trade-off, isn't there? Kicking means less stability momentarily.
Exactly. You're on one leg. That's why speed and snap are crucial.
So white belt kicks. Front kick. Ap-chigi.
Ap-chigi. Usually from a front stance, lower leg snaps out.
Striking with the ball of the foot, toes pulled back.
Yep, and a forward hip thrust adds power. Knee comes up high first,
Yeah.
then snap.
Quick retraction is important too, it says. Get the leg back safely.
Crucial. It also mentions using the instep sometimes. Groin target, or even wearing shoes.
Okay, then side kick. Yap-chigi.
Yap-chigi.
Yeah.
Shift weight, chamber the kicking foot near the knee.
Drive it out straight, striking with the heel.
Heel strike, yeah. Turn the hip into it. Could be snapping or thrusting, depending.
More power with the thrust, maybe?
Generally, yeah.
Yeah.
More penetrating power. Foot retracts back to the knee, then down.
And the roundhouse kick. Kolyo-chigi.
Kolyo-chigi. Circular path, usually the back leg.
You got to pivot on the supporting foot, twist the hips.
Big pivot, yeah. Hip rotation generates the power. Strike with the ball or instep.
Supporting foot stays flat, and the snapback is critical.
Very. The power comes from that whip-like action, snapping back to the hip, not just pushing through.
Harnessing the whole body. Okay, kicks covered. What about defense? Blocks.
Blocks. The book gives 4 options when attacked. Step away, hit first, block, or get hit.
We want to avoid the last one.
Preferably. White belts focus on hand blocks.
And the practice motions are exaggerated.
Often, yeah. To build power and learn the full path. Real blocks might be shorter, faster.
But a good block opens up a counterattack, right?
What's the goal? Deflect and create an opening.
First one. Down block. Hard and marky.
Hard and marky. Striking arm folds on top, step into a front stance, pivot slightly.
Arm extends down to block something coming up, like to the groin.
Groin, abdomen, yeah. Fist rotates out at the end. Ready hand pulls back to the hip.
Kiap often used here too. Tighten the core.
Has stability, power.
Next, rising block. Chukyo-marki.
Chukyo-marki. Deflected downward blow. One fist starts low, one high.
Step into front stance, twist, block rises up.
Forearm angled slightly up near the forehead. Palm snaps out a bit at impact. Ready hand pulls back hard.
Okay. Inside block. Arbchiji.
Arbchiji. Forearm inward block. Starts with hands, sort of position. One back near the ear, one across the body.
Step out, rotate hips and shoulders forward into the block, using the inside of the forearm.
Exactly. And that pullback of the other fist speeds up the rotation.
Rotation seems key for power in a lot of these.
It really is. Then, outside block, yap marki.
Starts with arms crossed.
Yep, roughly. One near opposite armpit, other over the shoulder. Step into a back stance.
Pull the arms apart forcefully. Block with the outside of the forearm.
Right. Snap the other fist to the hip. Less body rotation here. The book notes.
So the wrist snap and arm whip are more important.
Critical for power in this one, yeah.
Last one for the basics. Knife hand block. Pseudomarki.
Pseudomarki. Open hands, knife hands. Raise them over one shoulder.
Left palm near right ear, right hand behind head, something like that.
That's the setup. Step into back stance, turn shoulders, bring the blocking knife hand across in a circle.
Force comes from the distance and the small contact area.
Right. Edge of the hand. Other hand, palm up, near solar plexus for balance, readiness.
Okay, that covers the fundamental tools, stances, kicks, blocks. Now, the forms themselves.
The heart of it, and the book frames it beautifully. Taekwon Do as a never-ending quest for perfection against yourself.
I liked that. And the note about advancement beyond fourth dan?
Yeah, based on contribution, not just more forms tests, though forms exist higher up. Shows the depth.
Okay, so let's look at some specific forms. The book connects them so strongly to Korean history.
It really does. Each one tells a story, honors someone or something significant.
Like miniature history lessons you perform.
Exactly. First one, Chon-Ji.
Heaven and earth symbolizes creation, references Genesis.
Yeah, interestingly, 19 movements, a fundamental starting point.
Then Tangun.
Named for the legendary founder of Korea, 2334 BC, 21 movements.
Already seeing that connection to Korean identity.
Absolutely. Next, To-san.
Pen name for An Chong-Ho, the patriot and educator, 37 movements.
Then Won-Hyo, the monk who brought Buddhism to the Silla dynasty, 686 AD, 28 movements.
The number of steps varies quite a bit. Reflects complexity, maybe?
Likely complexity and the specific story or person being honored.
Okay, Yul-Gok.
Philosopher Yi-Iya, the Confucius of Korea, 38 movements. And the diagram looks like the character of a scholar.
That's fascinating, merging the physical and intellectual.
It really is. Then Chang-Gwen.
Patriot An Chong-Wen. Martyred young, 1910, 32 movements matching his age.
Right. Tae-Ge, scholar Yi Kwang, Neo-Confucianism expert.
37 movements because of his birthplace latitude.
Exactly. 37th latitude. Amazing detail.
These layers add so much. Hwa-Rang.
Named for that Silla youth group, crucial for Korean unification. 29 movements.
Chongmu. Admiral Yi
The
Sun-sin.
great admiral, yeah. Invented the armored battleship 1592. 30 movements. Ends with a left-hand attack.
Symbolizing his death in battle. Wow.
Powerful imagery, yeah. Then Kwang-Ge.
19th king of Goguryeo. Regained territory. 39 movements.
For his 39-year reign. Direct correlation again.
So,
Chonmung-chu, loyal subject around 1400 AD.
yeah.
Famous for a poem about loyalty. 36 movements.
Okay, then we get a couple with Japanese origins. Shows a cross-pollination.
Right. Jogi, iron horse. Popular form really emphasizes that horse stance. 34 movements.
And Basai, to break through the fortress.
Also Japanese origin. Widely used, powerful moves. 38 movements.
And the last one highlighted is Kae-Baek.
General Kae-Baek. End of the Baekjai dynasty. Fierce battle. Outnumbered. 44 movements.
Reflects that final stand, the end of an era.
A long era. 678 years. It's incredible how much history is packed into these movements.
It really is. And the book wraps up by mentioning the glossary.
Yeah, super helpful. Korean, some Japanese terms, stances, kicks, blocks, form names, general classroom terms, English translations for everything.
Makes it much more accessible for students.
Definitely.
So Wrapping this up then, we've covered quite a bit from the Yates book, the history, the why of
Their
forms,
importance then and now, yeah. The performance details, the fundamentals.
and dipped into the specific stories behind some major forms.
It's really a journey through the art, focused through the lens of Hyung, a shortcut, almost, to understanding a core part of Taekwon Do.
Beyond just kicking and punching, for sure.
Absolutely. And it leaves you thinking, doesn't it, about the dedication involved.
The discipline.
And all that history, that cultural weight embedded right into the physical practice.
It makes you wonder how that connection, physical mastery, preserving history plays out elsewhere, doesn't it?
It does. In any discipline, really. That link between doing something meticulously and its deeper meaning or heritage, something to ponder.